So let's say you found a skeleton. How would you tell if it's a dinosaur? You personally, how would you decide?
Well, interesting question. I don't know. I'd have to do some research on that.
Hello, everybody. We are here with Kent with Bent 59, which is crazy. And here's something that's even more crazy. We got Steven in the chat here who says that, oh, hey, there's a Mothra. Let's turn for Mothra real quick. So, Steven says that he just caught up with all of these starting from episode 1. And I gotta say, that is quite the accomplishment. I was just saying to Bent here, the chances of me ever going back and watching all of these in order is basically 0. I'm just not going to do it. There's a lot. Also, if you guys are experiencing buffering, let me know, because OBS says I have plenty of upload, but YouTube is saying that they're not receiving enough video, so I don't know. Let me know. We also have, let's see. I was asked if I had heard, but this was by Caesar Tejeda. I'm going to go ahead with Tejeda. Not sure. Let me know in the chat if I do mispronounce it. But it was asked if I had heard about the allegations from Kent Hovind's third wife of stealing money. The amount that Caesar here quotes is $155,000. I remember $133,000 from her Facebook. So, I am actually reaching out to her, and assuming that she is okay with it, I will be trying to set up some kind of interview, whether it be live or pre-recorded and then uploaded or something. Because, well, it's not typically the topic that I talk about, right? I don't normally talk about, like, the non-scientific claims of Kent Hovind. I make an exception for defrauding people out of, over $100,000. Just like I made an exception when Kent Hovind allowed a small child to drown on his property and then showed absolutely no sympathy or remorse or didn't even seem like he was upset by it. So, yeah.
He did seem excited to let everyone know that the boy's family was excited to return next year.
Yeah, that was gross.
You guys should come visit too.
Yeah. So, yeah, he's crossed some lines. Drink for Mothra again. For those of you who have been here for a while, you might also remember I made a small exception when Kent Hovind was being, let's just say, extremely insensitive to Rachel Oates when she had a rather unfortunate mental health break. So, yeah, every once in a while, when someone I talk about does something so completely terrible, yeah, I'll mention it. But that's not really what we're here to talk about today. What we're here to talk about today is CSE 101 Class 10. So, I'm sure most of you already know this, but this Creation Science Evangelism 101 was apparently accepted for credit by a few Bible colleges, which is just terrible. It's horrifying. Also, I noticed that I have
accredited Bible college.
It says I have Eric with Erica up here. I need to change that. There we go. Kent with Bent. Sorry about that. I had the wrong set.
Sorry, everyone, that I'm not Erica.
Yeah, everyone's here like, hey, it says Eric with Erica. What the heck? So, yeah, we'll work on getting Bent to become Erica later. I know a really good plastic surgeon.
It better be really good.
Yeah. All right, so let's go over the quick drinking rules, because we got drinking rules, which, by the way, we do not encourage that you play along with. We encourage that you drink responsibly and not do crazy stuff like drink this much. But in terms of full disclosure, I'm currently drinking what is mostly whiskey with a splash of cola for a little bit of added sweetness and a dash of lime juice for a little bit of extra acidity. Because in case you don't know, the key to a cocktail, there are 3 keys: dilution, sweetness, acidity. You need all of those.
Pollution and solution.
Those are different things. You're thinking of something, but not that.
Yeah, I'm thinking of something.
Okay.
And I'm drinking what is mostly hot water.
Mm-hmm.
Also, there's some chamomile tea in it, and honey, and lemon juice.
Huh?
in this amazing mug that can be purchased at the link below, I believe.
Yes, there is a link in the description to my merch store where you could buy that mug if you wanted to.
A really good deal.
Is it?
Mm-hmm.
All right, fair.
Oh, yeah.
I don't actually remember how much it costs.
I don't either.
Oh, okay. So anyway, so we drink, as you've already heard, whenever Mothra or Godzilla come by. We've already had Mothra a couple times. We also drink whenever Kent Hovind gets something unironically right, and he's not just quoting someone. We actually usually do drink for this at least once a stream. We'll also drink whenever Kent Hovind says something so stupid we kind of have to. Also, whenever he tells a story that we're pretty sure didn't actually happen, which is often. Whenever he tells a joke that doesn't land with his audience, that hasn't been happening much because he has a very, very friendly audience. And
he's made a good joke here or there too. It's
Yeah, it has
subjective,
happened.
but I don't hate all of his jokes. Although there was a streak of quite a few that I didn't like, but there's also a streak before that of quite a few that I did. So,
oh hey, and Maddie is here. And Maddie, I realized like an hour ago that I had invited you to actually come on for this one. So let me know if you actually do want to come on, and I'll see what I can do to get you on. There's also one last thing, which is I am slightly changing up my audio setup for this. Let me know if it's terrible, as I suspect it might be, and I will switch back. But I wanted to do an experiment where it was easier for me to use my computer at the cost, possibly, of slightly lower audio quality. So, yeah, let me know. Okay, so here we go. This is CSE 101, Class 10. We are starting it fresh, which I discovered about 20 minutes ago while trying to figure out where the heck we were in the last one and realizing we were nowhere. So here we go.
Well, thank you for joining us. This will be the last class of Creation Science 101.
Woo!
We've only
We made it.
covered about 1 1/2 of my videotape series, which is 15 hours long. We've covered what I normally cover in 3 hours. It's taken us almost 15 hours, or will by the end of this class, to get that far. So,
Yeah, you're welcome, everybody. I'm subjecting myself to this for you guys. I don't get to enjoy my own crazy rants. I have to make them.
hopefully there's been some more information added that will be helpful and useful to you. We left off last week talking about the canopy of water that's above the, or that was above the earth. The Bible teaches in Genesis 1, 6, and 7 that there was a layer of water above the atmosphere. This is called the canopy theory. We've been talking about that the last few hours in here, about the time before the flood when something was different. Probably only a small fraction of the flood water was found in the canopy. Probably most of it was found underneath the crust of the earth.
Okay, so here's something great, right? So those of you, some of you may or may not know, but last week there was a debate between Dr. Dan and Kent Hovind, and it was about the flood, and Dan criticized Walt Brown's theory about, well, theory is a pretty generous thing, but his idea, if you can call it that, of the hydroplate. So the idea is that there's these subterranean oceans, right? And Dan pointed out that according to Brown's own numbers, it would result in heat that is the equivalent of multiple atomic bombs going off on every square meter of the Earth for the entirety of the flood. And Kent Hovind's all like, well, I don't know about Dan Brown. But watch these. He takes hydroplate theory and lifts it straight out of Walt Brown. Oh, drink. There you go, Mothra. All right, here we go.
Maybe only 6 or 10 inches of ice or water would be above the atmosphere. It wouldn't take much more than that to filter out UV light, for instance. These glasses have a UV filter on them. You can't even see it. I mean, it's so thin. It doesn't take much to stop UV light.
Okay, so if we're going to stop all UV light, I get that people aren't going to get skin cancer, but they'll also get something else. Does anyone know what it is? It starts with an R. There's a thing that happens if you don't get enough UV. That's right. It's rickets. Yeah. You block out all UV light, you're going to get rickets because you need UV light to make vitamin D. Your skin is what actually helps make the vitamin D, and it needs UV radiation to do it. That's why if you stay inside all the time, your bones will start to get bowed. Yeah. So actually, you can, if you're familiar with herpetology, you can also get this with metabolic bone disease, which is a problem that reptiles can have if they're given the wrong kind of lighting or the wrong kind of calcium supplement, where their bones will literally get bent. It's pretty horrifying. If you ever decide to get a lizard, make sure you know how to properly give it vitamin D. But yeah, if you've ever seen that in an animal, that can happen to humans too.
And so I don't know how thick the canopy was. That's just a theory. But we do know that water will block out certain things.
It's
For
just a
instance, the sun
theory.
produces lots of things besides light. It produces gamma rays,
Yep.
X-rays, beta rays. All those ray boys come down here, and they're pretty hard on your carcass.
What?
They will.
I mean, I'm not sure how many beta particles come off the sun, but it is true that the sun does emit in essentially every part of the electromagnetic spectrum.
Yeah, he just listed a bunch of different frequencies of light.
Yeah.
But then he said beta rays.
Yeah, which is electrons and positrons. I don't know if that's a significant component of...
Does Kent think that?
I don't think Kent knows what beta particles are.
I think he thinks he's... Well, it seems to me like...
Oh,
he
there's
thinks he's
Godzilla.
only naming light frequencies and not actual beta particles, but...
Yeah, I'm not sure. He might know what beta particles are,
Yeah.
but I doubt it.
Are they called beta rays? I just don't remember them
Not
being called
normally.
beta rays.
They're not
right?
normally called beta rays, but you could use the word ray. Like if you have a beta emitter and there's a hole in the shielding for it that's emitting a ray of beta particles, you could call it a ray of beta particles or a ray of beta emissions or beta radiation.
Okay.
But I still wouldn't normally call it a beta ray, but
I just think that he thinks that it's a type of light frequency.
Yeah, I
like
think so,
X-ray and a gamma ray and
I think so too.
who knows?
So for all of those who have not done a whole lot of like radcon stuff, beta rays, there's beta minus and beta plus, and that's beta minus is electrons, beta plus is positrons. Yep, antimatter.
If you get enough positrons together, you can make a positronic net, which can serve some function in Android sometimes in the future.
Yes, in both Isaac Asimov and Star Trek, which just completely ripped the idea off.
Actually destroy your body. It causes a lot of damage. A canopy of water above the atmosphere would prevent that in the pre-flood world.
All
And
of it?
Things from the sun that are coming down, particularly X-rays,
Okay.
are very dangerous.
Yes.
They go right through your skin. You go to the hospital
yeah.
to get an X-ray. Of course, they use a higher dose of X-ray than you get from the sun. But you could take X-ray
Oh, Drink, that's true. They do use a higher dose of X-rays than you get from the sun. Good job, Kent.
film that they use at the hospital, walk out in the yard, take it out of the box, put it back in, go inside and develop it. The sunlight produces X-rays.
I mean, you would just get a blank picture that has some activity, but like, yes, Kent, you can expose film to the sunlight and develop it. That's technically true. I'm not drinking
It's
for it,
true,
though.
and I don't think his audience might not know that, so I'm fine with him explaining that.
Okay.
Ruin the film if they don't keep it protected. X-rays go right through your body,
Yep.
and they will expose what's inside. X-ray machines, they basically
Well, okay, so it doesn't matter a whole lot, but the way it actually works is when you see an X-ray, you're actually looking at a negative, right? So the X-ray darkens where the X-rays actually hit. So you can think of it as like the film is being burned where it's being hit by the X-rays because the X-rays are high energy. That's not actually what's happening, but it's a useful way to think about it, right? Because when you burn paper, it turns dark, right? So you can think of the film as being burned by the X-rays. The parts that are light, where you have the bones and such, that's where X-rays actually are not hitting in any significant amount because they're being stopped by, say, your bones. And so you're actually looking at a negative. You don't normally develop X-ray pictures the same way that you would with other things because you're already looking at white bones on a black background, which is how people kind of want to think about bones. They think of them as being white objects, right? So X-rays are actually negatives when you look at them. But like I said, it's not a huge important thing about X-rays. It's just he's getting it a little bit wrong. And I don't... Like, if this were just some guy giving some random talk about the dangers of X-ray radiation, I wouldn't really feel the need to correct this. But it's Kent, one, and two, you know, I want my audience to get the real story.
they're sending out a blast of zillions of itty-bitty tiny bullets Real
Kinda.
small, they go right through you and make a shadow of what's inside. Sort of like a machine
Yes.
gun or a shotgun,
That's broadly true. I'll take a drink for that.
blasting you full of holes. And I tell people this is why many
Not really full of holes. So that's... but it can cause damage. So X-rays are ionizing radiation. So when they do hit things in you, they can knock electrons off because the electrons basically get hit by the X-ray. It gives them enough energy to escape to such a high energy state that they actually leave the atom they were associated with or the molecule they were associated with, which creates a charged ion, which then can cause further damage, like, damaging DNA or things like that. So, or the X-ray can actually directly hit DNA, in which case it can just directly break that. So,
radiologists have a negative outlook on life because they look at this kind of stuff all day long. But your skin especially suffers from
that
this.
that was a joke that didn't land. He said that X-ray technicians have a negative outlook on life.
Rays from the sun. Your skin gets blasted all day long, and you have three basic layers to the skin: the dermis, epidermis, and subcutaneous, where the fat is stored.
Well, subcutaneous is below the skin by definition, but sure, forget about the hypodermis, which you're going to put on screen right here, but whatever, Kent.
X-rays go blasting through your skin
and
blow it full of holes, and your body must fix the damage. And it happens, all day. Millions of cells have to be replaced.
So actually, you do not get a very high X-ray dose from just being outside. The reason for this is because ozone is really good at kicking that stuff out of here. Ozone, O3. It is great to have in the atmosphere far away from you. Also, dangerous to have near you. So, ozone likes to break down carbon-carbon bonds. And I don't know if you know this about your body, but except for the water, which is most of the rest of it is made of carbon-carbon bonds. And ozone likes to just annihilate those. Here, there's a fun thing you can see if you look for it online, which is someone holding like a latex glove. And latex is basically just, a whole bunch of carbon-carbon bonds. They're carbon-carbon double bonds. And you can spray some ozone at it from a little ozone canister, and it just crumbles into nothing. It's kind of horrifying. And then you realize, oh, I'm made of mostly carbon-carbon bonds. Yeah, let's keep that stuff out of here. Which is why, by the way, ozone therapy is a terrible idea. That's a thing. People are injecting themselves with ozone. Do not do that.
Because of damage from the sun. And the more exposure to the sun you get, the more damage you cause to your...
Oh, that wasn't medical advice. If you need medical advice, please seek help from, a licensed healthcare provider in your area.
Skin. And after 50 or 60 or 70 years, your skin begins to lose the war. It can't keep up with the damage, and pretty soon everybody starts to notice you are losing the war.
No. That is not why you get wrinkly. Okay, let's take a drink for Kent not knowing how aging works. So the basis for aging is actually telomere reduction. Now, telomeres are protective, repetitive caps on the ends of your chromosomes. And as your cells divide, they tend to get smaller and smaller. Now, you can actually synthesize things that will increase the size of telomeres, but this typically only happens in meiosis, when you're producing gametes. So your actual somatic cells tend to just get smaller and smaller telomeres. And they're protective for a reason, because you need to protect your chromosomes. If you don't, then problems can start to arise. That's why as you get older, you start doing things like having your metabolism change. You start doing things like getting more cancer. And so there's also the fact that collagen just doesn't last forever, and your body isn't making it at a fast enough pace to just keep up. So you get wrinkly. So, I mean, it's nothing to do with X-rays. X-rays can give you cancer. That's fair. But as can aging, because basically eventually, if you live long enough, you're going to get cancer. Because some of your cells are eventually going to mutate in such a way that they become cancerous. It's just like the law of large numbers. Enough cell divisions, somewhere a cell is going to become cancerous. But yeah, there's really no strong link between X-rays and aging.
As your skin begins to wrinkle up, this is one of the primary causes of aging and wrinkling, is this damage from the sun. There's other causes involved, like the damage that's now happening to the plants that we're eating. Not only are we being exposed to sunlight since the flood's been over, being exposed to a different kind of sunlight, our plants are being exposed to a different kind of sunlight, so they're also not having the nutritional value that they used to have.
Did you follow any of that?
The sun has been putting off light at these frequencies since before plants were here, Kent. Does he think the sun just changed what type of radiation it's sending out? Because it seems like that's what he just said.
I think so. Well, no, it's a different kind is hitting the Earth because the ice canopy isn't here. But now he says that that's causing the plants to lose their nutrition, which is why I just put up the citation needed. I don't even know. Even if the plants...
I've heard that plants aren't as nutritious, but it's not because of sunlight, it's because of soil.
Well, there's soil, but there's also some selective breeding stuff going on here. Like, those big giant sweet tomatoes that you get at the grocery store, they're not as nutritious as the heirloom tomatoes are, because they've been bred to just be gigantic and sugary, and that's it. So, I mean, there is that. Same thing with corn, right? Our modern yellow corn has less protein than heirloom corns that were actually, grown by like the Native Americans before we were doing the whole intense factory farming thing. So there is that, but this is a very recent thing. This is not like, oh, ever since 400 years ago, the food has been declining. No, this is like post-industrial scale farming.
Yeah.
So like 150 years or so.
I thought it was even less than that, but...
Well, I'm being generous to Kent.
Anyway, concrete will stop X-rays, lead stops X-rays, and water stops X-rays. Several other things stop them.
Okay, so let's take a drink about water stops X-rays. So earlier, Kent Hovind showed an X-ray of a human hand. And you might have noticed that the hand didn't stop most of the X-rays. The bone stopped most of them, but you could see through the flesh of the hand. And you couldn't really see past the bones, because the bones were stopping the X-rays. But here's the thing. I said it earlier, but what's your body mostly made of by weight?
Water.
Yeah, so if X-rays stopped water, X-raying a human body would be essentially like X-raying a bag of water. You wouldn't be able to see through it. Water is pretty clear to X-rays. X-rays go through water just fine. So, I don't know how Kent keeps in the same brain at the same time that X-rays don't go through water, but they do go through humans. Because humans, as you might know, are ugly bags of mostly water.
Thank you.
You were waiting for that one, weren't you?
I'm always waiting for that one.
It's a good line.
It's a good one, yeah.
And if there was a layer of water above the earth before the flood, that would explain why people lived so long.
No, it wouldn't. Even if you were right about X-rays causing aging, it still wouldn't make any sense. Because water doesn't stop X-rays.
Even if everything else you said were true, there's still some missing premises there.
Yeah. Oh, man.
Before the flood, they lived an average of 912 years.
Okay.
It's a long time. It's also one of the quiz questions. What was the average? It'll actually end up on the final exam. What was the average lifespan before the flood?
Okay. So I actually kind of want to be able to have this final exam and fill it out with the actual or real answers. Now, some of them are going to be the same as Kent's, because some of them are just weird trivia bits, like, who was the person who first proposed uniformitarianism? It's like, stupid question, but okay, Charles Lyell. James Hutton, kind of. Like, sure.
Can I just write, I don't care to the answer for all of them?
That is...
Technically, it is right. I am telling a true answer.
You are. Oh, by the way, guys, so because there was, I think it was on YouTube's side, a bit of a delay with the stream starting up. I think the delay right now is longer than usual. So, unfortunately, that means I'm a bit more disconnected from chat than normal. So, sorry about that.
These are just, of course, from the dates we have recorded in the Bible. We don't know that this is average of everybody in the world at the time.
A surprisingly cautious statement from Kent.
But the patriarchs, all the people's names given in the Bible, if you simply add them up, the numbers that they give, and they left out Enoch in this average purposely. Enoch never died. So if you want to figure him in there, he's already 6,000 years old. And so it would really up the average, not bring it down, since Enoch never died. So they left him out to average the rest of the numbers. Interesting, when you look at the charts, the things you can learn from this graph, are fascinating. For instance, Methuselah died the same year that the flood started.
Maybe he drowned in the flood. Sucks to be Methuselah.
There's all sorts of good preaching goes on about this topic. I don't know how much of it is provable, but it's very interesting. Enoch was Methuselah's daddy. Apparently, God told these people what to name their children because the names of these 10 patriarchs here have a message that it spells out. I forget what the message is now, but it's in Henry Morris's book.
Great story, Kent.
That's
Always
Bible
start
code.
telling stories that you don't know the conclusion to. It's the best way to tell stories.
In the Defender's Bible, as a matter of fact. I should have looked that up before class. But you can get it. The 10 names have meanings. Methuselah means, when he dies, it shall come. Now picture yourself as Enoch. You have a baby boy named, and you don't know what to name him yet. And you and your wife are discussing, what do we name this kid? And the Lord impresses on your heart to name him Methuselah. When he dies, it shall come.
Okay, I am skeptical that that is the etymological meaning of Methuselah, so I'm going to go look that up. Here we go.
Yeah.
Methuselah etymology. Man of the javelin or death of sword. So, okay, unsurprisingly, Kent got this wrong, so I'm going to take a drink for Kent once again, just getting Hebrew badly wrong. Because when does Kent ever get Hebrew right?
No, does he ever get it right? He probably gets it right sometimes, right?
Maybe a little bit.
Maybe.
But yeah,
I can't think of any times he gets it right, though.
Also,
I don't know.
I have this thing where, like, okay, so let's imagine a world where apparently having God come and tell you what to name your kid is not terribly unusual. How do you get such a world that stops believing in God if he's showing up at baby showers all the time? Like, that seems far-fetched. Like, maybe you shouldn't... And plus, I don't remember anywhere in the Bible where it says that God did this. So I think this is more of Kent's extra-biblical nonsense that doesn't even actually occur in the Bible.
So Enoch is holding his baby thinking, Lord, why do you want him named Methuselah? When he dies, what shall come? The end of the world? And so the preaching goes, I don't know how true it is, but it sure seems like it could be, that Enoch realized when this boy dies...
A lot of conspiracy theories sure seem like they could be true, Kent.
It's true. 9/11 really seems like it could have been an inside job. Okay.
But sure could have been.
Yeah. Hey, look, he's just asking questions.
Hey, I'm just asking questions.
That's it. God's going to destroy the world. Now, did Enoch know how long his baby was going to live? No. Could have lived, 2 days. So Enoch apparently got right with God and kept so close to the Lord because he didn't know when his son was going to die. All he knew was when this boy dies, that's it. Because God apparently had told him that in order to get this name, Methuselah.
Which doesn't mean what you say it does, but okay, sure. It's a nice little fan fiction you got going.
So Enoch got so close to the Lord, they're walking and talking one day, and the Lord said, Enoch, we're really closer to my house than yours. I want you to come on home and spend the rest of the day. He said, okay, Lord. And since there's no night there, he's still spending the day up in heaven with the Lord. Like I said, it preaches
Right,
good.
drink for that joke.
It's interesting. It shows God's mercy. Which one of the guys listed in the Bible lived the longest? Methuselah. God is long-suffering. He's not willing that any should perish. He gave them plenty of opportunity. So this really...
Okay, so he gave them plenty of opportunity, presumably to repent. So that way, if they had repented, then God wouldn't have sent the flood, and then Methuselah's name would have been meaningless. See, that's kind of the problem with the story, where you start out with God already knows the outcome, and tells you to name a kid something, because he knows it's going to happen. Who cares how long he lives? You know that they're not going to repent. So, is it merciful? I guess. Is it merciful to let people continue doing the thing that you're going to kill them for longer? I mean, I guess, but not very. So... it's the whole thing just doesn't work very well. Like, you know what Kent Hovind needs? Is he needs, like, a workshop with, like, some fantasy writers who do a lot of world-building stuff. because Ken Hovind's world building for his Bible fanfic kind of sucks. And we have
doesn't really make a whole lot of sense.
No. We have a super chat for one for null. Misa Gang is here. What the crap is happening? Oh, we're just watching some Kent Hovind. Oh, and hey, you guys want to see something cool? All right, give me a second here, because in the background, I'm doing some rendering. So let me see if I can check that out. This is for the Speculative Evolution program. This is going to be rendering for another hour or so. But yeah, this little guy is the latest creature that's going to be added. So there you go.
Is that an eye?
It is an eye, yes.
It's pretty cool.
Yeah. All right, here we go.
Shows the mercy of God and his long suffering. He wanted everybody saved. He kept giving them more and more chances. Methuselah lived the longest of all of them. Finally, God had to bring judgment. And I think America's in that situation. We're about to receive the judgment of God. We sure deserve it, if anybody did. Now,
What? Yeah, okay. You know what? I'm not even going to comment on it. Sure, whatever, Kent. If you want to comment on it, go for it, though, Pence.
I have several things that came to mind. I don't think I want to say any of them.
Okay.
I just, I wonder what color ball cap Kent wore in 2016 and 2020.
Oh, he was selling merchandise for the previous president. He was making and selling merch. Yeah.
I'm shocked.
No one is shocked.
there are some people who go around teaching that the reason these numbers are so large before the flood. I just read an article in a book yesterday. This guy said, well, they used a lunar calendar.
Oh, by the way, Elios0000, or quadruple zero, says I should do a stream on the Epic of Gilgamesh sometime. It's amazing how much the Bible is just copied from it. Okay, here's the deal. If I do a stream on the Epic of Gilgamesh, I'm doing it from my copy of the Klingon translation of Gilgamesh. So be careful what you wish for. Because, actually, is that near me? Do I have that? No, I don't.
You can learn Klingon
over on the shelf.
The internet.
Yeah.
On the web zones. Duolingo.
But let's see. So I have Gilgamesh in Klingon. I have Hamlet in Klingon. I have Much Ado About Nothing in Klingon. For some reason, I think this is actually not true, but for some reason it's in my brain that maybe I have The Taming of the Shrew in Klingon. But whatever.
The next sentence said, they counted every month as a year. So the guy was explaining why they lived to be 900 years old. He said they didn't really live to be 900. You have to divide their age by 12. Well, there are some real problems with that, because Enoch was 65 when he begat Methuselah. Two of these guys were 65 when their son was born. And see, divided by 12, he's 5.5 when he becomes a daddy.
I actually agree with Kent here. That is not a great way to harmonize the ages in the genealogies. I think the better way is to just accept that either these are people who are mythological and not historical, or if you have to accept them as historical, then maybe don't take those numbers as literal numbers that you should be trying to actually perform mathematical calculations on.
Yeah, maybe they borrowed ideas from the Egyptians and exaggerated on their ages a little bit.
Oh yeah, like from the week before where Kent was like,
yeah,
"Oh, those
that is from last time." But yeah, that's what Kent told me. And look, I don't pay that much attention. I don't know that much about history. I learned that from Kent, technically. Like, I think I actually did know that a long time ago, but maybe not, right? So, like, it's just so weird. Like, yeah, the Egyptians, they exaggerated their ages. That's so weird. Now, these people, though, really did live this long. I'm being serious now. Hey, here you are.
So Colin Dietrich asks how old this video is. So this video is, I think, about 15-ish years old. And, we're going through a lot of old Kent Hovind stuff because new Kent Hovind stuff sucks. I tried keeping up with like Whack an Atheist, which is his only content that he puts out that isn't just straight up Bible study, and it is so boring. It was entertaining for like the first two because it was a new format and he was doing stuff that he hadn't been doing before, but he has not changed it up at all. He doesn't go through new arguments. He doesn't actually go through anything that quote unquote atheists he's talking about. Like, he doesn't go through anything they're saying. He doesn't do a response video. He just pops up their picture and says his old talking points while he whacks a SpongeBob bobble with a wooden mallet. That's it. That's the entirety of his new programming. It is garbage tier. So, the Epic of Gilgamesh was written in, well, okay, the oldest Earth copies of the Epic of Gilgamesh we have are in Akkadian, but we all know that the Akkadians translated it from the original Klingon. That's how it actually works. Yeah.
I wasn't there. I was born in the 1980s. I know you were born 150 million years ago or so I don't know.
Well, I just had a birthday, so 150 million and one.
In one, yeah.
Look, I've been 150 million for the past 20,000 years, so.
I don't think so. Okay, that would be an even bigger miracle than having him live to be 900. So it just simply is crazy to say.
I would consider those to be both similar level miracles.
Look up this is a real fact, right? Look up the age of the youngest person who was ever pregnant. And they were about that age, 5.5. So
that's rough.
And like that seems unbelievable, and yet it's documented. I think living to be over 900 years seems a lot more far-fetched.
Okay, maybe it is more far-fetched.
I think.
Say that this is anything other than really living.
I mean, they're both pretty far-fetched, but like, there has been a pregnant child under the age of 6 that gave birth.
People actually
survived. Like that happened. So
people actually seem excited about the idea of Klingon Gilgamesh. So I'll tell you what, guys. Put it in the comments or anything. If you actually want some Klingon Gilgamesh content, it probably won't end up on this channel if I do any. It would probably end up on like Top Hats Off as like I read a selection of Gilgamesh stuff. But
years old, they really were. Probably the reason they were, several reasons. Number one, they would have a pure gene pool, no defective chromosomes.
Kent's wandering dangerously into eugenics territory with his pure gene pool talk, but maybe he won't go full eugenicist.
He also said that a pure gene code would essentially have perfect chromosomes, but like that's just a weird way of thinking about it because there's so many genes. Why would you think about like the chromosomes are perfect then? Like,
yeah,
there's so much more to genes than just like the shape they make when they're getting ready to divide and replicate and all that.
Yeah, it's a bizarre take for.
I mean, for someone who taught high school science, he should know this.
Today, the average person has about 4,000 defective genes. A gene, in case you don't know, is if you took a ladder.
Okay, this is going to be bad. I've heard this before.
Not how you define gene, by the way.
Get ready for plenty of drinking. Hold your glasses up, because every stupid thing he says about genetics, we're going to take a drink for. And I'm just going to call out drink. Here we go.
An extension ladder from here to Chicago. What, 900 miles? And you had somebody stand on the other end while you started twisting it here. You twisted and twisted and twisted and twisted. By the time it gets all twisted up from here to Chicago, what are those things they sell at Taco Bell? The cinnamon twisters, okay? Sort of like that. You know,
Rose?
That would be roughly what a chromosome looks like.
I mean,
it's a strand of double helix DNA he's describing.
Oh, he's talking about how
he's actually describing a ladder that's twisted, which
like it's not the worst. It gets worse.
Each cell in your body has 46 of those little chromosomes. The rung of,
well, except for your gametes, but okay. That's an okay exception.
Of the ladder would be a gene.
Oh, Drake.
So the illustration people use is a twisted ladder.
Okay, so what Kent is describing is a base pair, not a gene. Base pairs are grouped into groups of 3 called codons, and then codons are grouped into larger groups of varying length called genes. So Kent Hovind thinks a base pair is a gene.
Do you think the rung on the ladder is a gene? Is that what?
Yes.
Is that what he said?
He thinks a base pair equals a gene.
Pretty tough to
That
draw
can't be real.
2D, what a
I can't
3D
believe
ladder
that
would
Kent
look like
said
twisted.
that.
But each of these things across here is a rung of the ladder. Each of those is called a gene.
Drink.
The whole thing is called a chromosome, or a DNA strand, deoxyribonucleic acid. Same thing as a chromosome, deoxyribonucleic acid. And this thing right across here is one gene.
Drink.
Gene.
I hope you guys weren't hoping to like still have livers after this, because no.
Now, when you get regenerated in Christ, you're being regened. Totally new person. New genes.
So Kent Hovind thinks you can do a genetic test to see if someone's Christian.
My gosh,
Take a drink.
This is as bad as the Hovind theory. Maybe not, but how is it not, dude?
Okay, so here's the thing.
This is very wrong if you guys didn't know.
So what I want to know is, let's say that you have progeria or something, and you convert to Christianity. Does that cure your progeria? Because if not, then I'm wondering what the regening that he's talking about is going on here. So I'll tell you what, Kent, when you find out that baptizing people and making them good, faithful Christians cures their genetic diseases, let me know. Call me up. You got my phone number. I've called you before. I mean, you probably didn't save it, but whatever. Yeah. Apparently Christians get a new genetic code.
That's where the word regenerate comes from.
Oh, I know. The C for cytosine, now it stands for Christosine, if you're Christian. You get a new little amino acid.
Nice.
Maybe.
From that word gene. Now that'll preach too. But during conception for the baby, half of this chromosome comes from the mother and half comes from the father.
Drink. So you get whole chromosomes from each parent, and then as they come together, they will swap over whole chunks, but they physically cannot unwind and rewind together because they're not complementary. Because each base pair, there's two sides, right? And they have to line up. You can't just put any old base pair there. You physically cannot do this.
The problem is, it splits down the middle.
No, drink.
Now let's take a ladder that is twisted from here to Chicago. We're going to split it all the way down the middle. It's going to unwind itself. And it's going to get the other half of the ladder from the mother or father,
Drink.
depending what your case may be. And it's going to wind itself back together, and all those genes are going to line up.
Drink. None of this is right. This is like you failed like 6th grade biology level wrong.
Christosine, trinitosine, apostolosine, and godosine.
Ooh, those are nice. That's the new genetic code.
You've been on fire in chat, and I've been noticing, by
Yes,
the way.
Vishanti has been
doing
great.
really well
Actually,
for a long time. So this is good.
Yeah,
Good job.
Vishanti has been doing great. Actually, I've been noticing Vishanti last couple Kent with Bents has been sort of on fire in chat. If we had an award, she would be in the running.
Yeah.
Absolutely phenomenal how this can happen. And that's one chromosome. You got 46 that are doing this.
Nope, none of them are.
46.
Take a drink.
Chromosomes in
All
every cell
DNA
of your
reached
body.
to Chicago.
So
I feel like we're not
radiation
focusing
from
enough on the Chicago part of this story, Kent.
Well,
What's really going on in Chicago? Really?
it's where your DNA stops, man. Oh, come on. I'm moved on.
sun is one of the things that causes damage to these genes. You often see people at the hospital when they're going to get an x-ray, they will put a lead apron over where the ovaries are on a woman, for instance, because they know the x-ray could damage the chromosomes, could damage the genes for the next generation.
I mean, I've had x-rays. I don't remember having my gonads specifically covered, and my gonads would be more exposed than ovaries would be. I mean, I remember having lead put over the parts adjacent to where the x-ray was going to be overall.
Yeah, they don't just like randomly cover genitals from x-rays when they're x-raying a region. Like you can just see that on an x-ray.
Yeah.
You don't care because that's not what you're looking at, because you're a medical professional practicing medicine and you're really, really busy. So
Yeah. I mean, I remember I've had parts of me covered up that just weren't being specifically X-rayed, but that's about it. And even then, not usually. But anyway, one for null for $2 says the Misa gang has decided that Kent has 0 IQ. That's fair. That's fair.
What did I say earlier? I want to see what's inside Kent's head, but it's dangerous to expose yourself to a vacuum or something like
Yeah,
that.
you can't get inside Kent's head because it's dangerous to be
It's
exposed
a
to a
joke,
vacuum.
Kent. If you watch this, I don't actually think there's a vacuum in your head. I don't like personal attacks at people's expense, even if I disagree with them. So, just a joke. Like he's ever going to watch this, but okay.
You never know, he might.
He might. Anything's possible.
Many things can damage this, and so they're trying to be very sensitive to not create damage to this. But one of the reasons they lived to be 900 before the flood was they had a pure gene pool, no genetic load.
I don't want to go Godwin's Law, but I feel like he's Godwin's Law adjacent, and I'm just going to drink for it. Like, pure gene code is just such a cringy thing to say, dude. Like, optics, man, optics.
You've got about 4,000 of these genes in your
Kent
gene
does
code.
not know what that means.
Actually, you know what? We're going to take a quick intermission.
Optics.
I think we're going to take a quick intermission, and we're going to come back to more of the horribleness of this this take on genetics. So we will be right back after these quick messages from our sponsor, me. I'm the sponsor of the video.
I want to take a moment to talk about something serious. There is a problem facing late surviving non-avian dinosaurs in modern America. Hunting is very strictly regulated, and only allowed at certain times of the year. This means that for much of the year we have to rely on farm-raised food, which means money. If you want to help a starving dinosaur, please consider donating on Patreon, or buying from my merch store. Links are in the description. Please help. Dinosaurs all over YouTube are depending on you to help them through the hunting off-season.
Oh, Nani? Dare? Oh, Ojira desu ka? Hai, Gojira-san. Hai.
Alright, and we are back. And like Godzilla said, please do remember to hit like. I am noticing there are a whole bunch of people who haven't hit like. But we also have a $5 super chat now that we're back from Carrie Bronson, who says, "Why didn't you tell us this would be him talking about radiation? This is my wheelhouse and my day job." I did not know that. That's pretty cool. And I didn't tell you because, honestly, I didn't know.
I didn't know either.
Yeah. My ability to predict Kent Hovind nonsense is limited to like a few minutes, not like 20 minutes or so.
I can't speak for Dapper, but I think it's true, but for me, it's for sure true. I don't watch any of this ahead of time. Like, I would know. Why would I?
No.
This is awful.
So as far as putting links in the chat, I do not allow links in the chat except for my mods because, well, yeah, people will come in and put links that they shouldn't put in. As far as getting me links, it's pretty difficult to do it during the show, but if you send me something on like Twitter or something, I will get it. And if you can get it to any of my mods on like a different platform where you can't put a link, and then they can check it, I will say that if Elios gives one of my mods a link and you think it's an appropriate thing, feel free to share that link.
That are defective. Sort of like a computer program where something's wrong. Now, if you marry closer than a first cousin, there's a high probability that you both have a similar gene code, and so you might both have the same defective genes.
No, there's a 100% probability that you have similar genetic codes, because that's what it means to be closely related. Now, there is a higher than normal chance of your offspring becoming heterozygous for a genetic disease, but if you don't actually have a long history of inbreeding in your family, it's actually not that high. That doesn't mean you should do it, because that's how you get to have a high level of inbreeding. But for a first generation, it's actually not that high a chance.
Now you're asking for trouble as far as deformed children. It's against the law in all but 3 states to marry closer than a first cousin.
Actually, I checked on this once, and I think it's more than 3 states where it's not technically illegal. There's a bunch of states where you can get, like, permission, which is weird. And it came up because someone was making fun of Alabama, and I was like, I bet it's not just Alabama. And it turns out, like, even Massachusetts doesn't technically outlaw cousin marriage, so, Oh, and we have another super chat for $5 from Rodent No Last Name, who says, how many YECs does it take to change a light bulb? 25, because that's how many there are in the world. If only there were only 25 Earth creationists in the world. I'd be out of a job, but,
There are more.
Quite a few more.
I was one for a long time.
I think I know more than 25 of them personally.
You have to marry second cousin or more farther away in all but 3 states in America. I won't tell you which the 3 states are, but drive through them and you'll be able to tell. The people.
Oh, joke that didn't land. Oh, it did land. F.
The product of that is called a redneck.
Ouch. That's not very fair to rednecks, but okay.
But anyway, the people were living long before the flood. They had.
I don't even know if I want to ask this because of it's off topic and it's potentially offensive. But where do the rednecks? Where are they? Aren't they from the same area that Kent is from?
Usually they're from the south in the Appalachian area, which is not where Kent is from. So Kent is actually a Yankee. I think he's from Kentucky or something like that.
Just because he's Kent.
And he moved to Florida later. So he actually came to the south later in life.
And then lives in Alabama now.
Yes.
No defective chromosomes in the original creation, number 1. Number 2, they had a canopy of water to protect them, to filter out the radiation from the sun. Number 3, they're eating a perfect diet.
What does that even mean?
They're also eating food that has been unaffected by any of this.
They eat all their vegetables, always.
Oh.
And they've never had chocolate. I don't know what that means, man.
That sounds depressing. Although, I did make some really good carrots earlier. Sauteed them with some butter, some salt and pepper. Put it on not a high heat, but enough to get them a little bit of a color around the edge and soften them a little bit, but not so they burn. Yeah.
Harmful stuff. Plus, they're eating food grown in soil that is not depleted at all. Mineral-rich soil.
Soil can have its minerals and fertilizer restored. You realize that there's a whole cycle to all of these things. There's a phosphorus cycle, there's a water cycle, there's all of these things. They go in cycles, Kent.
I cannot believe what's happened to me in the last 3 weeks since I started drinking the mineral water.
You spent more money on water.
I've been taking vitamins for years. Okay? Good vitamins, Shackley vitamins.
Okay, we're going to take a drink because I'm going to talk to you about Shackley vitamins coming up here. So Ken Hovind still, to this day, sells Shackley vitamins on his website. Now, I'm not going to sit here and be like, oh, Shackley vitamins are poison, like some of his other products. Because he also sells apricot seeds, which are poison. Shackley vitamins are just vitamins, right? So here's a few things about vitamins. vitamins usually contain more vitamins than your body can absorb in the time it's going to take for them to pass through your body. So if you're buying vitamins and it's not something you actually have a diagnosed lack of, you're basically just going to have all of those vitamins pour into your bladder and then out of you. And if you've got the right kind of vitamins, when they come out, it'll be a surprising color, which can be fun if that's what you want to do, is spend a lot of money to have funny colored pee. Hey, it's your money. But generally speaking, they're worthless. Now, if you're doing like crazy heavy workouts or you have a vitamin deficiency, there are exceptions to this, right? I'm not saying that they're always worthless. But Shaklee vitamins in particular are a multi-level marketing company. It's a pyramid scheme in all but name. So for those of you who don't know, multi-level marketing companies are ones where the main way to make money is to get other people to sell in your quote-unquote downline. So you recruit them to sell, and now a percentage, not of their sales, but of their purchases from the company, go to you, their upline. Because the thing is, the company doesn't actually make money when their salespeople sell products, because the products are purchased by the salespeople. So, I don't want to get too deep into it, but the average percentage of new recruits into multi-level marketing schemes that actually turn a profit ever is well below 10% for every MLM I've ever looked at. It's a complete scam, and Kent Hovind has somehow managed to get his, well, I don't know how, it's because he's personal friends with one of the founders of the company. But yeah, he has his website set up as a distributor for Shaklee vitamins. And he gets them at a further discount that the normal salespeople don't get. So in addition to selling MLM products, which I think is morally questionable in the first place because it's basically just a scam, he's also involved in a nepotistic transaction with an MLM. So there you go. That's why he's recommending Shaklee vitamins to you. It's because he has a vested financial interest in a multi-level marketing company. In case you weren't already convinced what a scumbag Kent Hovind is, and always has been.
And I still have had trouble. I felt like I was getting arthritis in my left hip and my left knee. I've just been having trouble.
I promise you, Kent, nothing in your mineral water is reducing inflammation in your hip. I'm not a doctor, but I promise that's not what's happening.
And
I'm drinking for this.
Hurts, when I move it sometime. And a chiropractor friend of mine said, "Are you taking?"
Okay. I know some of my audience disagrees with me on this, and I don't really care. Chiropractic is nonsense. Chiropractic is no better or worse for anything than a good massage, which isn't nothing, right? Like, a good massage is something. I have enjoyed a good massage, Remember I was having some, like, shoulder pain in my muscles, had a good massage, and it went away for a good while. It felt a lot better. But that's it. And the thing is, chiropractic adjustments are dangerous. People have died from chiropractic adjustments. And in most places, chiropractors have extremely loose regulation in terms of what medical aid training they need. Do they need to be trained in first aid? Not everywhere. Yeah. Chiropractors kill people. Don't go to a chiropractor. Save your money. Go get a massage. It's more fun. It's much more relaxing. And, yeah, go see a doctor, not a quack. Oh, and there's absolutely no way your spine getting adjusted is going to fix your hip. Because, spoiler alerts, your hip isn't part of your spine. Take another drink, because chiropractic nonsense makes me angry.
Taking minerals. I said, well, I guess not. I take all sorts of vitamins. He said, oh, well, your body can't absorb vitamins very well unless you also have these minerals.
What?
Vitamins and minerals.
I mean, there are essential minerals that you need, right? Like, mostly salts. You need various kinds of salts in order to keep your nervous system functioning. But your digestive system is not heavily dependent on minerals. Your digestive system works by acids and enzymes, which you make yourself. So, yeah, unless you have a noticeable deficiency, drinking mineral water isn't going to do anything but taste better. Now, fair enough. Mineral water tastes better than, tap water. I 100% agree. It's got a softer mouthfeel, it's more complex flavor, it's better. I enjoy it more. So, I'm not going to tell you not to drink mineral water. But please do not pretend that mineral water is going to fix your arthritis. Go see a doctor. A real one.
And so I started drinking this couple ounces of this mineral stuff. To describe it as tasting like weak tea would be an exaggeration. It doesn't taste real good. Not
I like mineral water. Whatever, Kent. Kent doesn't have to. It's fine if you don't like mineral water. I like it.
real bad, but it's just, it's all right. Anyway, I drink it every day. And all I can say is I feel so much better. It is really helping.
Okay, so I'm going to take a quick drink because Kent is using extremely bad reasoning here. So, a few weeks back, I was actually getting some hip pain, which is unusual. I don't normally have hip pain, right? So I analyzed some stuff like how am I sitting, am I sleeping differently, stuff like that. And I adjusted a few things about how I was sleeping and how I was sitting. And it went away, and that's this thing called regression to the mean. Basically, your body tries to maintain a certain level of, like, equilibrium, right? And you tend to regress to that point unless you're very careful not to. And for me, at least right now, my median point for, hip is to not be in any significant amount of pain. So it's very easy to get back to that mean. So I regress to the mean. That doesn't mean there was a miracle. It doesn't even really mean that me adjusting how I sat and slept did anything. It's the same thing with when you're sick, right? If you're sick and you take some sugar pills, you're probably going to end up getting better because you usually recover from sicknesses. Doesn't mean it was the pills. The other thing is just the placebo effect. Kent Hovind was told by someone he trusts, who he thinks is a medical professional, that drinking mineral water will help his hip pain. So, believing it, he starts feeling positive about this, and he feels better. Now, that's not to say that this isn't real relief. The placebo effect gives you real relief from symptoms, and it can actually make you healthier. But that doesn't mean that you can attribute the cause to what you think was making you better. It's just you thinking that you're going to get better is what makes you better. So, and another thing that I forgot to mention is this is just an anecdote. What you call anecdotes in medical research is nothing because you don't put anecdotes in medical research. Yeah.
And I'm not selling the stuff. I'm not trying to sell it. I'm just saying it works.
He's selling everything else.
I think in the original creation, they had perfect food supply, perfect atmosphere to breathe, no genetic load. They had probably several reasons why.
Phrasing, Kent, on genetic load. Just gonna put that out there. Phrasing.
They were living to be 900 years old, and they really were. Plus, they were probably getting bigger. The largest man, or tallest man, in this century, that we know of anyway, was Robert Wadlow, who died in 1940. He was 5...
Oh, yeah, that's true. Yeah, take a drink.
Well, I guess I can't confirm. I don't remember when he died, but...
Well, I believe he still does hold the record for tallest person.
He was very, very tall, and that was his name and all that stuff.
6 when he was 5 years old. When he was 12, he was the world's tallest Boy Scout at 7'4". He finally, when he was 22 years of age, started getting trouble with his knees from his growing so fast. He grew to be 8'11½", almost 9 feet tall. And he had trouble with his knees, and so they made special leg braces for him. And one of the braces rubbed a sore on his ankle, and he got gangrene in the sore and died.
I have no idea if that's true.
I think it's mostly true. He might be getting details wrong.
I mean, I'm not going to say it's stupid because none of that sounds
I could be
crazy.
completely wrong, though. What do I know? I can't remember.
Well, like I said, none of that sounds outrageous, right? Like, it's one of those things where it's like, okay, that could be.
At age 22. He had a size 37 shoe. There's a life-size statue of him in Alton, Illinois, where he lived, just by St. Louis. There's me standing next to it. And I can stand flat-footed and touch an 8-foot ceiling. I could not touch his chin. There's Robert next to his brother and his dad. He was a big boy. He weighed 500 pounds. He doesn't look very fat, does he? He's a big fella. I think before the flood, they were bigger than that.
So, they were bigger than Robert Wadlow. Let's take a quick drink here. This is okay. Who was so tall, his knees developed arthritis from rubbing against each other, right? Because like you've got cartilage that cushions your knee. If you put too much weight on it, it starts to weigh you down. It starts to rub out the cartilage, right? It starts to rub away. Friction. That's why if you're extremely obese, you get knee problems. So they were bigger than this, and Robert Wadlow needed a cane for almost his entire life. Like, does anyone see a problem with this? It's not like he had a genetic problem with the cartilage in his knees. Physically, cartilage can only do so much. There's a reason why extremely large animals have what's called graviportal adaptations. That's just basically adaptations to being gigantic. They have these big, thick, broad, column-like legs that don't bend very much, and they have specialized like cushions of fatty and aqueous tissue to help add additional cushioning to the leg. All of this stuff. Humans don't. So how could they possibly have survived? You also get things like Andre the Giant. He died because his heart was so big that it gave out early because he was so gigantic. His heart couldn't take it anymore, which is probably what would have happened to Robert or what was it? No, I can't remember his name.
Ladlow.
If he hadn't died of gangrene, apparently.
I don't know what his weight was. He was very tall, but not as...
Kent claimed it was over 400 pounds, which I'm not going to dispute.
And yeah, so Kent, what would perfect cartilage be? Because like the best cartilage humans have is what he had. It just wasn't enough for him.
Yeah.
So like
cartilage it's cartilage. There's no super cartilage out there.
Yeah. It is what it is.
This is a drawing, not a picture, of a skeleton that was alleged to be found in a coal mine in Italy back in the 1850s, I believe.
Oh, good guys, we have a drawing.
Some of the scoffers have ridiculed this drawing, saying when you find a skeleton, the ribs are not in place.
Accurate.
I understand that, okay? The ribs are going to collapse and it's going to be flattened out. They're not going to be up in place like that. This is just a drawing.
Okay, I'm going to take a drink and then describe why I'm going to ridicule this.
Is it because it's a drawing?
Yeah, not a skeleton. Where's the skeleton, Kent? I can draw anything.
Yeah.
Anything.
I could draw an office building with two shadows, Kent.
What is this, an office building in the Andromeda Galaxy?
It could be.
But that's the thing, right? Like, I can draw anything. And that is absolutely no evidence that it ever existed. You have to actually have the thing. Show me the skeleton that the drawing is based off of, and then you can show me the drawing as like an illustration. That's fine. It's fine to illustrate real things with illustrations. But you have to have the real thing in order for it to be meaningful.
Right.
Oh, man.
Of what they said they found in this coal mine.
What they said they found. You know what? That deserves a citation needed.
There are numerous stories and legends about giant skeletons that have been found.
Yeah, there are numerous stories and skeletons about cyclopses. You found any cyclops skeletons, Kent? No? Oh, that's because there being a legend and story doesn't make it real?
Never seen a zombie in real life. But I'm kind of concerned that in like, I don't know, 100 years or 1,000 years or whatever, that people like Kent Hovind are going to think that there were zombies in these times because they'll have access to the movies or something.
Yeah, they'll find pictures of
real.
them. I mean,
and stuff like that.
I've seen a lot of pictures of zombies. That must make them real, apparently.
And this man was supposed to be 11 feet 6 inches tall.
Okay.
Well, long, not tall. He's laying down now. But 11 foot 6. Can you imagine having one of those guys on your basketball team?
I can. It would be terrible because he could barely walk. There's a certain point at which, like, getting taller isn't going to keep making you better at basketball because it's going to make you bad at being alive.
Yeah, and you could only stand in the key for 3 seconds before they blow the penalty, so...
Yeah.
Hey, throw the ball to Herman. Okay, drop it in, Herman. Right there. You could
Except Herman wouldn't be able to physically stand anymore.
stand on the free throw line and probably drop it in the hoop. They could shoot 100% from the free throw line. In my seminar, I tell the story how some people get upset with me and they say, now, Mr. Hovind, you said that was the skeleton of a man. Maybe it was a woman. Well, that's a fair question, but I taught biology and anatomy.
I'm going to lay it out here that I don't think anyone has ever actually used that objection because who cares? And I'm taking a drink.
I'm gonna clarify because I taught biology and anatomy. You look behind his hand and he's got gene circle.
No, he's got a gene circle as a base pair.
It's not what a gene is, man. Are you serious now, Kent? Are you for real? Is this real life?
But seriously, who looks at this and thinks that the best objection is, oh, but how do you know it was a male skeleton? Who cares? In fact, up
No
until
one
he just said
what
this,
they said is this is not a human skeleton.
it's not even a skeleton.
This
I don't
is
think there is any skeleton.
Some other animal.
Oh.
Or they said this is a drawing of what a group of people said that they saw.
Right. I don't think there's any skeleton.
Did they say it as if it were fact or as if it were fiction? Because people have been making up fictional stories for a long time.
Even if they say
I
it
don't
is
even know if
fact,
they were pretending it was real. Like,
even if they say it is fact, you have to have the skeleton. You don't have the skeleton, you have nothing.
that's true. And that's very true. And yet, I don't even know if it was that much. Like, Kent is just running with nothing here
But like,
while demonstrating he doesn't know what a gene is.
I just can't imagine anyone skeptical of this claim coming up with the reason they're being skeptical is, I disagree with the ability of these people to determine the sex of the individual who died. Like, no. But let's hear what Ken has to say about how to identify male and female skeletons.
I happen to know how to tell the difference between a male and female skeleton. It is not the number of ribs.
Accurate.
Only Adam
I'll
was
take a
missing a
drink.
rib. By the way, there's only
Other people have lost ribs, but whatever.
I think he's
one
referring to the
bone.
idea that men have one fewer rib than women, like, all the time.
Well,
as the standard.
He's saying they don't, though, so to be fair, which is correct.
No, he's saying they don't, which is true.
Yeah.
but
I have
that's what
heard
he's
people who
referring to.
believe that that was the case, though.
Because I've heard people say that too, and that is even, I mean, look, Kent believes a lot of this crazy stuff, but not all of it.
So good job, Ken.
bone in the human body that will grow back if it's removed. The bottom rib.
No, your clavicles
Just-
will also grow. I'm taking a drink.
I just gave you credit, Kent. Because I'm trying to be, like, fair, but my goodness.
The only bone that'll regenerate. There's this interesting story in Creation magazine just a few months ago. If you get from Answers in Genesis,
Stick on topic, Ken. Tell us how you can osteologically differentiate between male and female Homo sapiens. I don't care what Creation magazine has to say, but whatever. We'll hear him out.
Creation magazine about this a doctor who was in a car accident and had smashed his face in, and they were going to rebuild the bones in his face.
Okay.
He went in for surgery many, many times, and they kept opening up his side, taking pieces of bone out to use it to graft to rebuild his facial bones. And so this doctor asked his doctor, aren't I going to run out of bone down there or something? You keep going in the same spot to get bone for grafting in my face. He said, no, the only bone that grows back in the whole human body is the lowest rib.
Yeah, I don't think this happened. I think this is another citation needed situation here. Which, by the way, I really like that citation needed video. I spent like the better part of like a Sunday, like all day, trying to make that work the way I wanted it to, and it was a lot of fun. So I hope you appreciate it, all you guys. It was getting the drying out. It looks like it's wet at first, and then it dries as the time. That was the tricky bit. I'm kind of proud of myself. Sorry.
Interesting bit of trivia. As long as you leave the coating, called the periosteum, the rib will grow right back. So, Adam had a rib taken out. That, of course, is not going to affect his gene pool.
I will also agree. Injury and dismemberment will not significantly change your gene pool, and it definitely won't do anything to your germline gene pool. So, yeah, sure.
I don't agree for the same reason that Kent thinks so, because Kent doesn't know what a gene is.
That's true.
So he doesn't know why he's right. He just happens to be right.
I still can't, with like the whole, he doesn't know the difference between a base pair and a gene. Like, holy crap.
If you cut your arm off and you have children, will your children be born with no arm? No.
Okay.
And if God took a rib
Correct.
out of Adam, that wouldn't affect his children any.
And I believe when I was learning some real science and real college, like there was a time where they weren't sure.
Oh yeah,
and they
that's true.
thought maybe that was like you get little tiny pieces from your parents. Like they did not understand how procreation worked.
Mhm.
And so that was one of the theories, or what, I don't know if it was a full-on theory, but one of the ideas they had is that, hey, if you lose your arm in an accident, your child won't have an arm now.
Or might have
And
a
then they
shorter
found out,
arm.
or something like that, right? But then they
So actually, there was an
ended up
experiment
not being
where,
true.
for several generations of mice, they docked their tails, and docked is it's polite for they amputated the entire tail, and at no point did the offspring start getting smaller tails. So that was sort of what ruined that. And so this is actually a hypothesis that Charles Darwin actually believed. It was called there was this idea of gemmules. So the idea was every part of your body gives off these tiny little particles called gemmules, which contain the information about what that part of the body is and how it's built and whatnot. And then those things would collect during fertilization, and gemmules from all over the father's body and all over the mother's body would combine, and then they would kind of average out, and then you would get an organism. And then the idea was that the gemmules actually carried information about the current state of the body part. So if you would cut off the tail repeatedly, you wouldn't get gemmules for the tail. So how could you get a tail in the offspring? You couldn't. Well, when you do keep getting tails, it means that the gemmule idea, which is compatible with Lamarckism, doesn't really work. And also, we eventually got Mendelian genetics, where we realized there wasn't actually blending. There was a particular inheritance where there was a dominance hierarchy and things like that. And for $5, Carrie Bronson says, a doctor in that story literally said, "Oh, don't be such a baby, ribs grow back." I hope he thereafter turned to a dove and added, "No, they don't." Kent Hovind's stories are a bit on the far-fetched side pretty often.
It's surprising how many people today still believe women have more ribs than men.
I agree, it is. I'll take a drink for that.
It just simply is not true, okay? Now, it is true there are people who have one extra set of ribs, more than
It's
everybody
also
else.
true.
That
I'll take a drink for that,
It's
too.
a genetic thing. You know, sometimes people...
Although I will point out that Kent thinks that variation in equid rib numbers debunks the fossil sequence for equid evolution, but he also accepts that humans have variable rib counts within the same species. So I'm not
what's
sure.
the perfect rib count then, Kent?
Ooh, that's a good question.
Like, what would perfect DNA and perfect genes code for the perfect amount of ribs? How many is that?
Yeah, should I have an extra pair of floating ribs or not?
Or should you be missing a pair? Or do you have the right amount?
have 13 ribs pairs instead of 12. But it's pretty rare, and who cares anyway? But it's not a male female.
He's right about that.
Everybody
Who
has
cares?
the same number of ribs. But there are two ways to tell the difference between a male and female skeleton. One is to look at the feet. If they're pointed toward the mall, it's a woman.
Drink for sexism.
Don't write that down. That won't be a quiz question. One lady said, "No, Mr. Hovind, her feet are pointed away from the mall."
Joke that didn't land?
It landed a little bit because some people did laugh, but I'm still just going to drink because casual sexism.
I heard Kent chuckling. I thought, I don't know.
I thought I heard a woman in the background chuckle. I don't know.
Probably because she was getting ready to divorce Kent.
Oh. Oof.
That shopping's hard on these women. I said, okay. The second way to tell the difference is to look at the process on what's called the temporal mandibular joint. That's the place where the jawbone, the mandible, hooks onto the skull. If that joint right there is worn out more, it's probably a woman.
Yeah, take a drink.
One lady said, "That's because we got to tell you men everything twice. You don't listen the first time."
So, of course, this is Kent just being casually sexist. But a more reliable place to look is actually the hip. Because the angle of... So, if you look at the hips, right? They go from the wide iliac crests down to the narrower part of the bottom, where the pubis bone is. And the angle is much narrower in male skeletons than females. Because, spoiler alerts, females have evolved to birth offspring, which requires wider hips. That's the best way to figure out if your skeleton was most likely male or female. So
that was what my guess was going to be, in the hips.
Yep. Because the phrase childbearing hips is a phrase for a reason. Because only some members of the species bear children, and they have to be able to fit the children through the hips. Now, this actually might change in the future because if we keep up with our current level of medical technology, that is no longer a strong selection pressure. For instance, I know someone right now who, if not for the invention and reliability of cesarean sections, cesarean sections, C-sections, would have been dead about a year ago because her son was not going to fit through her birth canal. And that's going to ultimately be fatal to both of them if you don't excise the baby, basically. So, the fact that she is currently alive with genes that presumably result in her having a too narrow pelvis for safe childbirth means that she's passing those genes down. So it actually might be the case that female humans might end up not having as distinctive pelvis in the distant future. So it's possible.
Well, I'm guilty of that too. But that's just a joke I tell. And you'd be surprised. I get letters from time to time or phone calls. People get upset about jokes in my seminar.
Gee, I wonder why anyone would ever be upset by your casual bigotry, Kent. Weird.
Well, you've known that you've been offending people by being offensive.
Right.
Say, look, lighten up, First place, I'm just kidding.
Okay.
They say, are you against women? I say, my own mother was a woman. No, I'm not against women.
Yeah, no one who has a mother can be against women. That means sexism doesn't exist. Hooray, guys, we solved the problem of sexism!
If you're gonna make jokes, you should probably either make cleaner jokes or be better at making jokes. Because if you're a really good comic, you can push some lines.
Yeah.
But come on, Kent, you're not
Kent's
close
not
to that.
No. It just comes across as Kent being honestly sexist.
It's straight, honestly, and this is the second time in today's particular live stream that Kent has done something that reminds me of Michael Scott.
Yeah, Michael Scott, don't be Michael Scott in real life.
He made a lot of inappropriate jokes. It's funny because it's fictional, but this is like real life Kent.
And because Steve Carell is better at this than Kent Hovind is.
Well, he's also a world-class comic, and
Yes.
Kent is a world-class fraud, so...
And I like it, Vishanti puts in male hips, female hips, with the different slashes from the keyword. Yes, that is... It's not quite true. Your male hips are a little bit too
It's just
straight up and down, but yeah.
So, right?
Kind of.
She comes from a long line of women, matter of fact. So
That joke didn't land. I'm taking a drink.
But there are other differences between male and female skeletons. These two are not the ones. But some giant skeletons have been found. That's what I want to talk about tonight.
Okay, we're all the way back here after that weird discursion for sexism.
So he just gave two jokey answers, but did he actually give a real one?
No, he just said those aren't the real differences and then moved on.
Those aren't the real differences.
Moving on.
Moving on.
Yeah.
In Indianapolis newspaper, 1975, they quoted an article that was also quoted in Reader's Digest, Mysteries of the Unexplained, where it talks about a giant skeleton, 9 foot, 8 inch tall.
Okay.
That's pretty big. It was found in Indiana in 1879. And I don't know what became of it. Nobody's been able to trace down what.
So again, there's no skeleton. Awesome. I'm taking a drink. Some guy one day said there a big skeleton was found. Okay. That's great.
Happened to this giant skeleton. I have a theory about that, though, and we will get to that in a minute. A skeleton nearly 10 feet long was found in Humboldt Lake, Nevada in 1931. 10-foot skeleton up to the ceiling up there.
Is that skeleton something that's still around? Could we go look at that? No?
Pretty good size.
I don't even need to see it. I just want to see a drawing of it.
Well, that would prove it. You can't draw things that don't exist, Ben.
And I wanna know that when they draw it, are the feet gonna be pointing towards the mall or not? Because
You want to know if it's a male or a female?
this is what Kent's trained me to do, and
Okay.
I'm learning from him.
In Guam, there are some giant stones that are set up over there. And even today, the legend exists in Guam about the Leyte stones. I think that's how you pronounce it, Leyte, that are found. They said, who put these giant stones up here anyway? They said, oh, the giants that used to live here did that.
Except humans can move gigantic stones. Humans have been moving gigantic stones for millennia. right? There's things like log rollers, winches, levers. The Romans had cranes. You know what? Has anyone here heard the phrase Deus ex machina? Machina is where we get our word machine, but in classical Latin, it literally means crane, because the idea was that in some of these poorly written plays, the way that you would solve the conflict at the center of the play was you would have an actor be lowered in literally from a crane onto the stage playing the part of a god. And the god would just magic away all the problems, and hooray, Jupiter fixed it. And where did Jupiter come from? From the crane that's literally physically above the stage, lowering the actor. That's why we have the phrase Deus ex machina, the god from the crane. And for $5 from Bad Dolly 1998, Waves hand, these are not the explanation of the bones you're looking for. Accurate. So yeah, humans.
I like David's joke. I just drew a picture of Jonathan Frakes saying it never happened, Kent. That's really good.
Oh man, I love those compilations.
If you saw me chuckling a few minutes or seconds ago, it's because of that.
There are two, both the never happened meme as well as the Jonathan Frakes asks you questions meme are just golden. I love Jonathan Frakes asking you nonsense questions. Like, have you ever taken a bike ride by moonlight? It's like, what? No? Maybe? I don't know. Who cares?
Those are great questions.
They are.
It's
really
still part of
They really are.
their custom that there were giants in Guam at one time.
Okay. Do you have any actual skeletons that are extant? No.
Giant people. In Walkertown, Indiana, which is up near South Bend, a group of amateur archaeologists opened a mound in 1925 and unearthed the skeletons of 8 giants ranging from 8 to 9 feet long, all wearing heavy copper armor.
Well, that would be interesting because that would be basically the only known instance of copper armor in North America. So, that'd be crazy.
To the bungling of the diggers and the disinterest of the Archaeological Museum establishment, these discoveries have now been scattered and lost.
Convenient.
Now, the book Weird America by
Did they
Jim
have
Randall-
drawings of the discoveries, though?
Probably. That makes it
Did they
true.
use those too.
Maybe. I like that our reference is Weird America. That's a well-noted scholarly work. Weird America. Take a drink for that citation.
Oh my gosh. What the Kent is going on right now?
That's a good question.
which I have in my library here.
Oh, he's got it in his library. Well, thank goodness.
You're talking about some of these giant things that are found and about dinosaurs still living.
Oh.
And then he says, isn't it amazing they survive for millions of years? Just does good research and gets the wrong conclusion from
Why are we talking about dinosaurs?
the whole
I
thing.
saw a picture of a giant shoe. Some old lady with lots of kids lived in it.
Lompoc, California, down in Southern California. I'll be there day after tomorrow. In 1883, some soldiers were digging for a magazine, a place to store gunpowder. Keep it cool out of the weather.
Oh, they weren't digging for an old copy of Playboy? Get it? Magazine?
Ew.
They found a giant skeleton 12 feet tall.
Oh, Vishanti says apparently that Kent says the Smithsonian took all the giant skeletons and hid them to keep people from questioning evolution. As if giant humans would disprove evolution. Oh, that's so great. I hope he says that in here.
The Indians in that area, this was still during the time of a lot of Indians, you know, Indian wars even going on in 1880. They got upset because they had disturbed a grave. Now, in many cultures, of course, if you disturb a grave, that's one of the worst taboos there is. You don't bother a grave. And so
I mean, there are whole movies about that. Remember Poltergeist?
I haven't seen it.
You haven't seen Poltergeist?
I'm pretty sure I'm not allowed to.
Okay. Well, we should see Poltergeist anyway. At least the first one. The second one's kind of...
Okay. All right.
The first one's pretty good. Also,
right.
Rip the Little Girl. That was sad. That was tragic. But, whatever.
remains were reburied, and nobody knows where it is today. But this was reported commonly back in 80s about this giant skeleton. This is from the book The Unexplained by Dr. Carl Schuker, who is a scientist in England and writes extensively about unusual phenomena like this.
In his scholarly work, The Unexplained. I'm going to take another drink for that one. These are some top-notch, just absolute A-tier references, Ken.
I'd also want to contact Todd Jurasik. He's a friend of mine in Oklahoma who does a lot of research on giant skeletons that are found. He's writing a book about it. I've been after him. I say, Todd, he calls once a month or so. I say, finish the book, because he's collected enormous amount of material on these giant skeletons.
I know, it looks like his name is actually Jurassic, and he therefore is an evolutionist trying to troll you. Yeah, the George says, the better question is, why are we ever not talking about dinosaurs? Look, I would talk about dinosaurs for a long time, but I feel like even my audience would eventually get bored with how much I could talk about dinosaurs if you let me.
Giant humans that are found. A skeleton 12 feet tall was reported in Tucson, Arizona.
Hey, Arizona.
1891. The man had 6 toes, long hair, and a bird-shaped headdress.
What?
Where else do you read about 6 toes in the Bible? Who knows?
1 second.
Who had six fingers and 6 toes?
Is it
Anybody know?
Goliath?
You're telling me Goliath came from Tucson, Arizona?
Probably.
How did he get to where King David was?
He walked.
Okay.
Goliath's brother, or cousin, or uncle, or whatever he was,
Okay.
had 6 toes and 6 fingers. Often, though not always, 6 toes is one of the first 6 toes or 6 fingers is one of the first symptoms of close inbreeding.
Is it? I mean, I can see that as a result of inbreeding, but I'm not familiar with that from the famous examples of inbreeding, like the Habsburgs or most royal families. So I'm just gonna have to say, citation needed on that one.
It is a dominant allele.
That's true. Yeah, polydactyly allele is dominant.
First cousin marriage, man marries his aunt or his niece. Not always, but often this is the case. The girl that I told you about that rode our bus in Illinois had sickle cell anemia. Her mother and father were brother and sister. The 9-year-old raped his 8-year-old sister.
Well, thanks for getting this stream demonetized, Kent. My goodness. Look, maybe this is true. I don't know. That's terrible and horrible, but I mean, thanks for bringing this up, Kent.
And she got pregnant and had a child, and that little child rode our bus. Great, great girl. She died at 13 of sickle cell anemia, but she had 6 fingers on each hand. This is not always the case, but it is one of the symptoms that sometimes shows up with extra digits. This happens with cats all the time. Cats often marry back to their own family. How many have ever seen a cat with 6 or 7 toes?
Yeah, Maine Coon cats have it commonly, and it is kind of because of inbreeding. But, okay.
Ever seen that? I saw one with 9 at one time. Cats had toes sticking out every place.
Yeah.
Cats are schizo anyway, but this one was extra schizo.
Hey, and casual shaming of mental illnesses.
And
Take a
cats,
drink for
too.
that. Yeah, maybe. I don't know.
Look, I'm not a cat person, but some people are. And like, why you gotta insult pets that people like, Ken?
I like cats. I'm just allergic to them, so I
I'm very
appreciate
allergic to cats.
I appreciate cats from a distance. I like to look at cat videos. I think they're adorable. I even like. I like big cats, little cats. Cats are great from a distance. It's like cobras, right? Cobras are cool.
They're cool.
I just don't want
But
one
would
in
you
my
go
house.
pet a cobra?
No.
Would you go pet a lion?
No. Although I
would want to.
I did see an article that I don't know how accurate it is, but it claimed that 10% of American men thought they could win in a fist fight against a lion. I'm just like, I hope they go try.
Well, look, lions don't have an easy time making fists
That's
that I know of.
true.
So if the lion cheats, yeah, it's gonna win. But if it plays by the rules, I wouldn't fight a lion though.
Yeah,
Why would you want to fight a lion? They're awesome.
They are awesome.
Something was wrong. Something was wrong with that cat. That is a redneck cat. But I've got several books in my library if you want to read more about this. These giants that are found. Here's the references at the bottom. There's a whole series of books by David Hatcher Childress. You might want to write that phone number down and get a hold of them. That's the one.
There you go, guys. If you want to call Hatcher Childress, Ken Stockson him. Is that him?
I'm not going to call.
Oh, David Hatcher Childress. You're not going to call? Okay.
Where this article
I
comes
am
from.
not everyone
If
in
you
the
want to
chat.
we'll get into this in a second. But 815, this is south of Chicago, Kankakee area. 815-253-9.
Oh my goodness. The Venerable Bead says, my dog's parents are siblings. The original owner thought they wouldn't do the dirty, so he thought he could save money on spaying and neutering. Yeah, don't do that. The fact that your pets are siblings is not gonna prevent them from mating, especially if they don't have other outlets.
You're going to want to mate.
Yeah. And the thing is, I actually think that if it were humans, and literally the only other person around was your sibling, that there's a fair chance. I mean, look, history is full of like royal families that married first cousins, even brothers and sisters. The tradition in Egypt was for pharaohs to marry their siblings. There's no natural barrier there. The taboos we have are artificial constructs that humans have made because we noticed that inbreeding was bad. Take those down, and it's going to happen. And your dogs don't have those taboos because dogs don't know what taboos are.
1,000. And they do research on, it's called World Explorer magazine. Now, they're not Christians necessarily.
And the Jord for nothing says, Dapper, if you read this message like a super chat, I'll pay you in kitten pictures. And since I like kitten pictures, send them on over.
Necessarily. But they just do incredible research on strange things that are found around the world that nobody wants to talk about. Because they don't fit what's called the paradigm, the way you're supposed to believe.
But that's the thing. That's the thing that scientists most want to talk about. If you look at where is the most active research right now, it's in places where we think our understanding has to be wrong somehow. Like I'll use physics, right? Like no one wants more than to figure out quantum gravity because gravity doesn't fit into the standard model of particle physics at all. And that's where people want to figure stuff out because we know something is wrong about either relativity or the standard model or both. And we want to figure out what the heck it is. It's the same thing in biology. When you find a brand new species, you want to figure that out. That's the exciting part. The exciting part of science is figuring out where you're wrong or where conventional wisdom is wrong, right? No one really cares that much if you publish another paper saying, yep, Bernoulli's principle still works. Good job, everybody. No one really cares that much. If you want to get rich and famous in science, then go against the prevailing wisdom and show that you're right. That's the key, though. That's the problem.
Because Kent goes against the prevailing wisdom all the time, but
he's not.
It shows that he doesn't know what he's talking about.
Right. You have to be right in order to actually do it.
They go and visit these places and do research on it. It's really, really good stuff. They've got a book called Far Out Adventures. I'll bring that after the break. I've got it here.
Could you at least try to cite a book that sounds like a serious work and not just like, I don't even know, like clickbait? These are the clickbait titles for books. Before there was real clickbait, there were these books. And for $4.99 redos, Ian Chen says, appease the void is angry. No, the void is uncaring and unfeeling. So begone, heretic, who thinks that he can ascribe feelings to the void, like Jordan can ascribe feelings to the Martians that he says are unemotional. If you don't know what that's about, check out my Saturday series.
And that's on Saturday, right?
Yes, that is correct.
Okay.
I will hopefully be finishing up that 3-parter this Saturday.
Heidi, the ones you cut the pages out, I handed it to somebody to bring out here tonight, and it didn't make it. So it must be still on my desk. But that's put out by these folks about some of these giant skeletons and other strange things. They get into all sorts of things, UFOs and a variety of things like that.
I want to hear Kent's take on UFOs.
There's a website which you can get about this topic, geocities.com, which is a web host for all.
GeoCities! Look, when he gave this, that was probably still the new hot thing. But I just love that he's directing us to a GeoCities website. Is it part of a web ring? That's what I really want to know.
But maybe, but credible people would still like. Look, you could buy your own website, and it was never that expensive to run a website.
I bought my own website once.
Like for professional people, like I had 2 that I ran just for fun when I had no money way back in the day. So, yeah, especially back then, like with security and stuff, is a lot easier than now.
Sorts of things. But geocities.com/thetropics/lagoon/1345/giants.
It's such a long URL for you to direct someone to by word. Oh my goodness. Any URL that would be truncated by like Twitter or something, not Twitter, the YouTube comments, like, or not comments, but description. I can't tell what I'm talking about. Yeah, if you could put it into the YouTube description for a video and it would be truncated, don't tell people to go there verbally.
As information about some of the giant skeletons.
You didn't say .html, so
that's true. Also, for some reason, it looks like he has a space between the H and the TML.
Out here, from Far Out Adventures magazine, is one of the back issues about what the Smithsonian has done.
All right, well, we're going to leave our Smithsonian conspiracy theories for next time, because we're going to get out of here pretty soon. I'm just going to let you guys know a quick little bit about channel news. So Thursday, the second International Phonetic Alphabet video should be coming out. That is my plan right now. Then Saturday will be another look at Jordan and his spirit science history. Then Tuesday will be another Kent with Bent. Thursday will be the second episode of Canadian Young Earth Creationists. I don't know what's happening the Saturday after that, so that's as far out as I can tell you for certain what's happening. Yeah, and as a reminder to everyone, I do an irregular series called Leaving Young Earth Creationism. So if you are a former Young Earth Creationist and you want me to help you get that story about how you left out there, drink for Mothra. Please do let me know. I would love to feature you on an episode at some point. Because I really do want those stories to get out there. It's not always easy to stop being a Young Earth Creationist. In some ways, it's kind of like coming out. You can lose contact with friends, family. I know people who've lost very close relationships after realizing that they couldn't be Young Earth Creationists. Yeah. And also, this is not a leaving Christianity, so if you still remained a Christian or whatever you were before you left Young Earth Creationism, that in no way disqualifies you. Many of my guests for that are still religious.
I was on an episode. I left Young Earth Creationism. I did not leave Christianity.
Yeah.
And I still haven't left Christianity, and I don't plan on leaving Christianity.
Well, there you go. So yeah.
I plan on doing the good Christianity parts that Christians should be doing and try not to do the bad ones that they tend to do.
So yeah, please do let me know. Because well, for one thing, I am always looking for content. Not gonna lie about that. But yes, it is something that I think is important, is to get those stories out there. But anyway, with that, I think we're going to sign off. Thank you so much, everybody, for coming. I want to say thank you to everyone who super chatted, like One for Null, Carrie Bronson, Vandalia 1998, Ian Chen. I think there might have been another one, but I had to refresh my broadcast page, so some of them got erased. Sorry about that. Also, remember to hit like, and please, if you haven't already, which it seems unlikely, but if for some reason you haven't subscribed to the channel, do that. Remember to share the video if you can, because every time these videos get out there to new people, that means that new people can watch the show, and the channel really does depend on the support of the viewers to keep going. So with that, I'm gonna go ahead and open up the end credits, unless Bent, there's anything you want to say at the end.
Thanks for watching, everyone. Take care.
All right, yes, please take care, and have a wonderful night out there. Later. I just want to take a moment to thank my patrons and channel members, especially those pledging $20 or above: Bob Knob, Bent Hovind, Ian Chen, Chris Love, Sphincter of Doom, The Venerable Bede, and Patrick Dennis. My patrons and channel members really help make this channel possible, and without them, this channel wouldn't exist. If you would like to support me, you can click the join link on this channel below this video, or you can click on my Patreon, link in the description, and pledge. On Patreon, there is an option for an annual subscription, which comes with a 10% discount. And joining the channel will give you access to my custom emojis. However, if a regular pledge isn't for you, I do have a merch store. And if monetarily helping out the channel isn't a thing you can do, every like, share, and comment really helps the channel.